Alright, welcome back to Mr. JDM, and this is going to be the second part of removing a Honda engine, the DB, F, and H series engines. They're all pretty much the same, very similar. There are a few differences, but for the most part it's pretty much the same. When it comes to K series or J series, there are too many differences to lump that into a video like this. So anyway, let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is remove the exhaust manifold. To me, it's just easier to do that first at this point. So let's get to it. We want to unhook the O2 sensor. There will be a clip for you to disconnect. This thing is nasty. Let's clean it off a little bit. And then up underneath here, and then under here, there's usually some kind of clip where this wire clips onto, just to keep it from hitting the exhaust. Then we need to remove the heat shield. It's almost always 12 millimeters, and a lot of times these things break. That hurt. So far so good, none of them broke. The bottom one just rusted out completely, so we didn't have to worry about that. And you'll run into that a lot with these heat shields. You can see where it's starting to crack right here. These things, they rust out pretty easily. Alright, and now next we're going to get all the bolts on the exhaust manifold, and then we can pull it away from the actual engine. Obviously this has been off before because they are super loose. They're not even tight. And sometimes this might happen where the whole stud comes out, but it's no big deal. And we have another one that did that. Alright, now we're able to pull it away from the head, but we still have to disconnect the manifold from the rest of the exhaust up underneath. Alright, a lot of times there will be brackets that hold the exhaust manifold. This one's obviously disconnected. On some of the B series engines, there will be a bracket on the back side up here that hangs down and connects to the manifold here. And then you'll see this right here, that's not bolted down, but there'll be a bracket that holds the exhaust right there too. Luckily for me, all of these are not bolted down, and so it makes my job easier. The only thing we have to focus on is getting these two disconnected from the cat. The rest of the exhaust that goes all the way down. There's one here and one on the other side, and usually the side with the spring is a 14 and then this side is a 12. Alright, and that whole exhaust is not hung on with one hanger. So, I don't know, maybe we'll fix that. I don't know. I don't really know if I'm going to or not. But as you can see, we got the exhaust manifold off, and there's no other brackets, so let's go back up top. Alright, we should just be able to slide it right off. And of course, it's being a pain in the ass. You might have to play Tetris with it to get it out of there. Well, I don't think it's going to come out of there. It's just because of this. The bracket keeps hitting this and it won't slide through there. But no big deal. We can leave it on there. It's disconnected from the rest of the exhaust. Alright, the next thing we need to do is get these axles out of there. There's one on this side and one on the other side. On B series F and H, there's what's called a half shaft. And it basically mounts to the back of the block. I have one somewhere. I'll try to find it and add it to the video. This right here is a half shaft. It'll actually be on the engine like this. This will slide into the transmission and then your axle will connect onto here. And it'll mount onto the back of the block like this. This isn't the right one for this engine, but you'll see it bolted onto the back of the engine block, and you can slide the axle off of this part, but you will need to remove this in order to get the transmission separated from the engine block. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure all B series, F series, and H series has this half shaft. The D series, I don't think any of them do, except for maybe the dual cam CZ. But I could be wrong about that. But I believe the dual cam CZ has this. All other D series just has a longer axle on the driver's side. And I believe the purpose of this is so both the axles are the same length, and it has something to do with I don't know, the wheel balance, or one axle doesn't turn faster than the other, or I don't know. I could be completely wrong on this, but it has something to do with that. But what we need to do is pull the axles out of the transmission, and in order to do that, we have to unbolt here and either do the lower ball joint or the upper, so we can pull the whole steering knuckle out to slide the axle out. Let me go get the tools required to do this, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I didn't record any of that for whatever reason. What we need to do is we need to get this axle nut off. Alright, so we need to get this axle nut off, which I've already done. But you can see right here where it's bent, and that's because when you stick it on there, you bend it into this little groove. That way it keeps it from coming unscrewed, from backing out. So you want to stick a screwdriver in there and bend it back up. And then this is a 32mm socket. If it's never been unscrewed before, you got the original axles, or it was last done at a, you know, mechanic shop or something, it might be super tight. So you might need a super strong impact or a super large breaker bar to get this off. But as you can see, it came right off with my impact. And now in order to get this axle out, we need to get the bottom ball joint, or we're going to do the top one. That way you can pull it forward to slide the axle out. But I'm going to do the bottom one. That's what I've always done. I think it's better than the top. You get more leverage, you can pull it out further. So let's get the bottom ball joint pulled out. The bottom ball joint's going to have a cotter pin in there, so you need to pull that out. And right now would be a good time to go ahead and replace your lower ball joints. Now we need to unscrew the lower ball joint, which is usually a 17mm. Alright, now here's the hard part, is getting this ball joint out of the lower control arm. You don't want to bang on it right here, because you will mushroom this and you won't be able to get that bolt back in. A lot of times if you bang on the outside of the lower control arm, it'll free it up. But if that doesn't work, then you have to use one of these tools. And you basically slide it in between the ball joint and the lower control arm. And then you bang it away until it separates. And there we go. Now you can lift the steering knuckle up. Alright, now we can lift the steering knuckle up and pull this forward to slide the axle out of here. You don't really want to hit this with a hammer too much because, again, you can mushroom it out. It does have like a little hole right there, and that's for you to stick a like an impact, whatever you call it, hammer thing to push it out. I don't have one of those, so we'll just get like a screwdriver to stick in there and hammer it out. And spraying it down with some penetrating oil, that, you know, that will always help. Alright, and now we got our axle out. And what I'll do is I'll spray this down. That way it'll clean it up, and when we go to put it in, it'll be a lot easier to slide that in. Now we do the other side. Alright, now we got this side. Let's climb under there and I'll show you how to extract the axles from the transmission. Alright, we are now under the car and we need to pop that axle out. There's one on this side and one over here. In my experience, I've always just stuck a screwdriver in there and put a little pressure and it should pop right out. Just like that. Now you're going to have transmission fluid leaking, which is normal, so I would suggest hurry up and get it out and stuff a rag in there. Alright, just like that. Let's do the other side. That was easy enough. Alright, we got both sides, and not a whole lot of transmission fluid should leak out. So I wouldn't worry too much about, you know, draining your transmission out. And the next on the list is to get the shift linkage out. Alright, so what we have here is a 12mm bolt. You unscrew that, and then under this you rotate this little thing right here, and then right there is what is referred to as the bitch pin. You basically got to hammer that up with a I don't know, a pin or like a screwdriver. Let's get this one off first. Not sure if I can record this and do it at the same time. Alright, we got that one off, and that releases this part of the shift linkage. Now we need to hammer up the bitch pin, and you can use something like this. Alright, now that we got this part of it off, the the little cover that we rotated, we need to pull that off so we can get this pin out. Alright, so it's like a little clip. You just got to pop it off. I removed the boot because it was ripped and it ain't doing shit anyway. And if you can see how that bitch pin is mushroomed, it's somebody beat the hell out of this thing, and I am having no luck getting it out. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to remove the whole shift linkage. Just remove it all. That way I can get the engine dropped and pull the transmission. Once I get the transmission pulled, I'll mess with this bitch pin again and try to, fix the issue. So let's get this shift linkage removed. If I remember correctly, there's just a couple bolts. Alright, so all we have to do is unscrew this right here, which I've already done because I thought I was recording, but apparently not. And this bar will come loose from here, and the other bar is loose from the transmission, so it's pretty much how we do it. And the camera is holding that up. Let's scoot you back a little bit. Alright, that one will drop, and then this side will drop, which we've already unscrewed it. I just stuck it up there. And now we have it disconnected, and we can start dropping the engine. And that's why they call the bitch pin a bitch pin. Alright, well, it's getting kind of late and I'm hungry, so I'm gonna eat dinner, and then after dinner I'm not doing any more work, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. And in part 3 we will pull the engine out, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know what to say, so thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.